Hi, I'm coming to you from a makeshift ops center in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I was called last night by one of my favourite journalists, Rachel Wells from The Age in Melbourne in Australia. There's been a report of a takeover bid on David Jones, an Australian icon, which is a very large department store chain. And an assault on David Jones is akin to an assault on Vegemite, so I had to react. So within about 2 or 3 hours between Rachel's team and the Rexville team, we were able to positively identify the origins of this bid from a mysterious website that had been set up only a few days prior to the bid. And we were able to trace it back to a gentleman by the name of John Edgar. And I've had quite a few calls and emails from people asking how we did it or what we did. So rather than answering the calls, I thought we'd make a quick video of it. So with no further ado, let's do a quick screencast. We can show you what it is that we did. As you can see here, the search on Google within the last week for David Jones' Takeover, there's 25,000, almost 26,000 results. So it's obviously had quite an impact on the market in Australia. The Age newspaper that I helped with this social and digital forensics assessment ran a story as early as June 29th on the takeover bid. All that was known was called EB Private Equity and nothing much more. Thankfully, we were able to trace the origins pretty quickly. Today, on July 2nd, Rachel and her peers were able to publish a story that acknowledged the identity of the chap from Scotland in the UK. They're able to confidently publish a lot of the material that we were able to discover in the background checking we did through digital and social forensics by trying to match up patterns and history with different websites. And I'll show you in a moment in a little bit more detail what we did there. And thank you for Rachel for giving us a little plug there. We've had quite a few calls as a result. After the initial story, it was reported that the mystery bidder bowed out, apparently as a result of the amount of attention that the story has been getting in the press. Just out, a new article, DJ Saga ends in farce. I have to say that one thing that jumped out at me pretty early on with respect to this website was the fact that the administrator had quoted Ayn Rand on the contact page. And of course, she's famous for her book Atlas Shrugged, and the famous quote from that book, "Who is John Galt?" And of course, John Galt is the mystery man from the Atlas Shrugged book. So very early on, it was very difficult to take it seriously when there's quotes like that on the website. But unfortunately for David Jones, with the disclosure laws and everything else, they have to let their shareholders know what is going on. So let's have a quick look and see what we had to start with. To begin with, all we had was the website, ebpe.net. And we did some very basic history of that website, and we were able to quickly, by going back in time, identify a few email addresses. This was another alarm bell. Not that there's anything wrong with using a Yahoo email address, but it became apparent pretty quickly that the individuals behind this website were using disposable or free email addresses, which speaks volumes as far as credibility in any due diligence assessment of a business deal. We were able to cross-reference some geolocations to that website. It became apparent that Newcastle in the United Kingdom, as well as Manchester, that had been a history there. And there was also significant history from Edinburgh, a company that appears to be a business that specializes in setting up £2 companies. There was a defunct website that I was able to trace back called goodinvestor.com. It's now defunct and it's being squatted on by, I think, a Chinese domain squatting service, and it's for sale. Without too much effort, we're able to locate email addresses, quite a few, but I've narrowed it down. Just the important one here is John M. Edgar at goodinvestor.com as a out-of-service email address, but it was good information. So I started focusing on the name John Edgar. We're able to then find some other businesses. Luxury beverage company, which sells the world's most, I guess it's the most expensive soft drink. It's, I think, $5 million for a bottle or something like that, I guess, for people that have more money than sense. Then there is a brand new business that was started just in the last few months called Motion in Motion, Ultra Limited. And these were hosted on the same servers as EBNet, the same name servers. When you have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of potential web hosts around the world, and you start getting intersections with common web hosts, the patterns become pretty apparent. From the identity of John Edgar, I was able to then track him back to financial institutions. Whenever you can follow a money trail where there is the name of an individual on an actual account for a financial institution, that's gold. In any type of digital or social forensics where you're trying to uncover the identity of anonymous antagonists, and I'm not suggesting Mr. Edgar's an antagonist, but what we normally do, of course, is track down cyberbullies, extortionists, pedophiles, and things like that. From the bank, that opened up a whole bunch of other very important information that helped verify the identity. We're able to then trace him back to the defunct company, Good Investor, Luxury Beverage Company Limited, Mimu Limited, and Ellen's John's Brands, which is another dissolved brand. The UK has a lot of very open information about the corporations. We were able to have a quick look and see what was going on through the UK. Company information, luxury beverage company, for example, with the very, very expensive soft drink, had listed Mr. Edgar. And then if you look at Mr. Edgar, it will then link to some of the other companies that he's been involved in. And of course, that was important for the Age in verifying other types of information. There's a lot more to it than that. We initiated communications with the beneficial owners of, for example, the website that announced the bid on DJs through private messaging, and included in those messages were what we call tripwires. These are links that if clicked, we're able to determine the originating IP address of the individual that first opens the message and any subsequent openings. That helps us to narrow things down geographically. And when we do that, if we start seeing cities or locations in common with what we already expected, we can determine to a fairly high level of confidence that we have our man, so to speak. This was a lot of fun, this case. It wasn't a big deal. On a more serious note, there is a lot of problems globally with naked short selling. And that is where people manipulate stock prices for profit, where they sell stock that they don't actually own. They might sell it for $1 per share, for example. They then instigate a vicious smear campaign against members of the board of directors, for example, for that actual company. So the stock prices drop maybe to 20 cents or maybe to 5 cents. And what happens then, the people who sold the shares for $1 go and buy the same number of shares, but only for 5 cents. And then they deliver those shares to the people that they sold them for $1, and they make a fortune. So we love to crack those cases open and identify criminal elements who manipulate stock prices at the expense of the poor people who lose all their equity in their shares. There's lots of applications for this type of technology and these techniques of what we've called social forensics and digital forensics.